Grampian Nation, I wanted to say thank you. You have made Building Men a category bestseller on Amazon. We're doing phenomenal on Barnes & Noble. If you have not yet read Building Men, I'd encourage you, go online, find a copy wherever you get books, and give us a great review. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to the next time we get to chat on the Grampian. Hey, Grampian Nation, welcome back, and hang on. We're going to talk to a dude by the name of Brandon Held. I met him out in cyberspace, and he has an amazing story. Plus, he's cool as a podcaster. He has the Life is Crazy podcast. Stand by. We'll be right back with Brandon Held.
In 2013, I coined the name Grampian, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Brandon, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm great, Jim. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you know, I'm reading your bio, and I was so intrigued when I read it. I thought, I want to come alongside this guy. I want to spend some time with him because as I look at that, you're like an open book. Is that fair?
Oh yeah. Like cut open my chest, see my heart bare open. Yes.
Well, I'll not cut open your chest unless I get licensed as a heart surgeon, but I'm going to read this quick. Brandon Held joined the military twice, went to college twice. He got divorced 3 times, and now he's working on number 4. It sounds like awesome. You've been a bartender, personal trainer, salesman, government contractor, and worked in aerospace. Like, that's a mouthful for anybody in 4 lifetimes, but you've done it in basically your first half, just starting your second half. But you also say, and you've talked about being suicidal and attempting suicide, which is pretty dang vulnerable. And so for all those reasons and more, I just felt compelled to talk to you. So start by this. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for taking an interest. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Second of all, so I had a really wild life, and a lot of people that know me and know me well told me I should write a book about my life, that it's pretty unique, and my experiences, collectively together are pretty wild. Maybe people have had those experiences through life separately in individuals, but for one person to go through all the things I've gone through in life. So people kept urging me to do that. And I actually sat down a couple times to try to do it, and I just couldn't get very far for whatever reason. The words wouldn't come to me to put on the page. So then one day, randomly out of nowhere, it just clicked, like, I should just do a podcast. I should just tell my story in a podcast. And so that's what I did. I made an outline, which for some reason came really easy to me. And then I sat down in front of the microphone and I recorded 25, 30-minute episodes about my life from start to today. And that's how I started my podcast. And that's how I just wanted to get everything out there.
Awesome. So everybody wonders, you see that thing, and you see, and I have an advantage over the rest of the listeners because we've actually had a chance to chat. So, but I want you to tell our audience a bit about your youth, because it's not your typical all-American, I want to be leave it to Beaver household, is it?
No, it was definitely a bad youth, and it was something that, like, you didn't understand when you were going through it, but when you got older and more mature, more intelligent, it made more sense. But yeah, my first life memory is being 2 years old and my father coming into our house and pulling my mom out of the shower naked and beating her up and throwing her over the couch and just hitting her right in front of me. And this is my first memory in life. And
wow.
My parents got divorced shortly after that. And so I never knew my real father. He actually committed suicide about 10 years ago. And I never knew him. And I didn't want to, because that's what I knew of him. To me, that's the man that he was. And he tried to get in my life, and I never wanted to know him. But I grew up, so, at one point my mom left me, and I have a sister that's a year younger behind. She left us with our grandma. She literally just took us there and took off. Didn't tell my grandma she was doing it, nothing.
Wow.
Um, and so my mother has been married 7 times. Every time she got married, it was an abusive relationship, alcoholism and drug abuse, and all of that was just the norm in my life. It was the norm in my childhood. Watching my mother get beat up was normal for me. And it also made me feel really helpless as a
Mm.
young man, really
Yeah.
helpless. And it drove me. So when I first was a teenager, I was like, I want to be a cop. And I didn't even understand at that time why I wanted to be a cop. But it
Yeah.
was because I felt this protective nature that I had inside of me, because I always wanted to be able to protect my mother, but I couldn't. I was this
Hmm.
skinny little, teenager, and I just didn't have it in me. But what I did have in me was looking at my environment and what was going on around me, and knowing I wanted to change that trajectory for not only my life, but for my legacy. Because my whole family legacy, both sides, is alcoholism, drug abuse, can't hold down a job, you know, living in trailers, barely getting by. And I didn't want that life for myself, and I didn't want that life for my future kids. So I was determined to change that legacy.
Yeah. How old were you when you kind of figured out I'm gonna break this cycle? Is an active thought process. When did you decide, hey, enough is enough? I'm gonna break it.
It's hard to say exactly, but I can say I was for sure around 13 that things weren't going to be the same for me. I knew even younger than that. I saw, the way alcohol and drugs, the men that were doing it reacted, behaved, right? And I knew even younger, to me, it made no sense. Like, if this makes you crazy, if this makes you act this way, why do you do it? Right? It made
Yeah.
no sense to me. I just couldn't get a finger on why they would do that. So I made a decision very, very young. I will never drink. I will never smoke. I will never do drugs. And I'm about to be 52, and that's still true. I've never done any of those things. So it just stuck inside of me really, really early, and I was determined. By 13, I would say I knew I was going to have to go make my own life and make it different.
And you've broken the cycle. Congratulations, man. You have
Thank
broken
you.
the cycle. Good on you. So that shaped you, but it doesn't define you. How is that?
Correct. Well, I mean, life is what you make it. This is the thing that I tell my 3 sons all the time. If you think life is miserable, you're right. If you think life is great, you're right. It's really just how you look at it and how you approach things. And, I grew up in this childhood, but guess what? I was always smiling. I was always happy.
Mhm.
And people would come up to me, even my own family. How are you so happy all the time? Why are you so happy all the time? And I was just like, why not? Life is great. Life is what I make it to be. And I knew my life wasn't going to be that life. And in some weird way, knowing that my life was just going to be better than what I was growing up in, it made me happy.
Yeah. So, but you also describe some downs with those ups
Sure.
in the depths of some condition. You were thinking about suicide and even tried it once. What? How did that come about?
Yeah. So, I had never considered killing myself when I was younger, like suicidal ideation. None of those
Hmm.
thoughts never entered my mind. And it did enter my mind as an adult, because that's when disappointment started setting in. That's when my own expectation of how I thought my life was going to be so much better than the environment that I came from. And sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was pretty bad. And so I had some suicidal ideations for a long, long time. And then about 10 years ago, I was at the lowest point of my entire life. I was going through my third divorce that I didn't want. I was losing my wife and my two sons. And then during the midst of this very bitter, ugly divorce, I got laid off from my job and I
Mm,
had to sell my home. And so now not only was I losing my family, I literally had nothing. I was homeless.
yeah.
And I just decided, what's this all for? What am I fighting for? What am I working so hard for if this is the way life is going to kick me in the nuts? And so, yeah, I had a thought one night about killing myself. I take Ambien to sleep, and I thought about downing the whole bottle of Ambien consciously, but I didn't. So I took one Ambien and I went to sleep. But at some point during my Ambien stupor, I woke up, opened the rest of the bottle, put the whole thing down.
Mm,
And yeah, my life was saved. A coworker, she was worried about me, so she would check on me. And when she couldn't reach me, she called the police to do a check on my home where I was living. Well, not my home, but where I was living. And and yeah, the police couldn't get in, so they called an ambulance, and then they got to me and they saved my life.
wow. That's an incredible story. What advice do you have for someone who's in a similar low right now?
That this too shall pass, that you can't just look at where you are in that moment in time in life and think that is your life and that's what you're destined for and nothing's going to change and it's never going to be any better. Because that is how I really felt at that time. And at other points in my life, I thought, well, maybe my life isn't going to be great like I thought it was going to be. But, ironically enough, that suicide attempt and living and surviving made me feel like, all right, well, this is, I survived for a reason, right?
Yeah,
So now I have to make the best of that. I have to go and live the life that I was meant to live. And frankly, that is what happened. I completely have turned my life around. I've got the best job I've ever had in my life. I make the most money I've ever made. I have a young, beautiful wife that is the best relationship I've ever had by far. It's
uh-huh.
just so natural and so good.
Yeah,
And and now I'm doing this podcast and I'm life coaching and I'm really just living my best life and I'm the happiest I've ever been. And 10 years ago I would have never thought I would be here today.
yeah. So I think that God gives us platforms, and I would guess that you're considering what you're doing now with the podcast and the coaching. I'm guessing you're considering that a platform that's been gifted to you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, God is a big part of my life and I always have prayed to him even in my lowest of lows and even when life's going well, I still pray to him and I thank him for giving me the blessings he has given me. And yeah, I just want everyone else to know no matter what you're going through, you can be blessed too.
Yeah. So life is crazy.
Yes. Yes.
So life is crazy. Where did the name come from?
So as I told you when I sat down and I did an outline of my life, because
Uh-huh.
by the way, none of my podcasts are scripted. None of them.
Uh-huh.
Not my life story. None. I put bullet points, I did an outline and then I just speak to it.
Uh-huh.
And once I finished it, and it was pretty emotional for me to relive some things I hadn't really relived or gone through.
I can't even imagine, man. That's
Yeah.
hard. Hard stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So once I got done with all that, it just, I don't know, it just felt right. It felt like life is crazy was the right way to explain it. So
Yeah.
that just stuck with me and that's what I ran with.
and life is crazy in one way or another. But what do you want to do with this platform? How do you want to speak into people's lives and make their life maybe a little better?
Man, there's so many things I want to do. I want to, be a mentor to young men that don't have a mentor like yourself as well. And I want to help people going through trauma, or they've been through trauma and they don't know how to move forward from there. And I want to save lives, frankly.
Yeah.
The best thing anyone could ever say to me about my podcast ever is if they reach out to me and they say, Brandon, your podcast saved my life.
Wow.
If I hear that, that's everything for me. That's really what I want to do. I really just want to help those see whatever they're in currently at this moment or have just gone through. There is another side. There's a way through, and you can live a great, amazing life on the other side.
So this is more than a podcast. This is a calling, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it. I've never really put that to words myself like that, but yeah, that's a great way to put it. I do feel that way. I have my consultant job that I do for the government, all day, 5 days a week. And
Yeah.
podcasting is my side thing. It's the thing I spend 3 to 5 hours on 7 days a week. And it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, I'm spending all my time on this thing. It's really something I have a passion for. And I feel like it's giving to me just as much as I'm giving to it.
That's awesome. Well, let's go back a bit because you get out of high school. Did you play football in high school? Do I remember that right?
I was a 4-sport athlete.
All
Yes.
right. So he's a stud. All right. I'll give that to you. I mean, I don't know about your choices for, I almost wore a Michigan shirt just to
Oh,
see if I could,
ouch.
I could see if I could stay in my in-laws family, but you notice I didn't wear a shirt from the Ohio State University,
That's right.
or the University of Washington. But if I was going to wear a shirt, it would probably be Boise State because the
Hey,
Smurf turf is, I don't know if you guys have ever played here, but man, the Smurf turf is where it's at.
hey, blue's my favorite color. The Smurf turf is beautiful. I love it.
All
So
right. So, but you get out of high school, you're a 4-sport athlete, you've done a lot already, you've seen and experienced a ton, and something clicks where you're like, I think I'm going to join the Air Force. But you weren't even 18 yet, were you?
no, I actually graduated high school 6 months early, and I started school at a very, I was like the minimum age you could be to get into school. So
Yeah.
when I still had 8 months before I turned 18 when I got
Yeah.
out of high school. So I joined the Air Force because I thought I was too dumb for college because I had a 1.5 GPA in high school. And I thought that was going to be my life, and I wanted to be a cop. So I went in as a cop in the Air
Hmm.
Force, and I got through boot camp. My mom, it was $20 in a bus pass. Good luck.
Yeah.
You're on your own, right? I mean, I knew there was no looking back for me. It
And
was
where'd you go to?
uh, I went to Cleveland, and then
Oh
from
boy.
Cleveland got on an airplane and went to San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas, Fairchild Air Force Base.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there was no such thing as failure for me because
Yeah.
it couldn't happen because I had nothing to go back to.
Yeah.
So, I joined the Air Force. It scared
Grampian.
me. I bit off more than I could chew, but I didn't have a choice. I had
Hmm.
to make it through it. So I got through it, and then I went to security police school. Same thing. I felt intimidated, and like I bit off more than I could chew, and I got through it. And while my classmates were walking for high school graduation, I was graduating Air Force Security Police School, getting my security police badge pinned on my uniform. And I was really proud of that
That's
fact
a
that
big deal.
I thank you. And it was a big deal to me. And so, yeah, I was just off and running a little bit earlier than everyone else and never looked back.
But the fact is, you kind of did it alone, didn't you?
Oh, everything has been alone for me in life. That's
Yeah.
that's the way it feels. I've never had support, especially financially.
Mhm.
You know, I've had wives and relationships along the way, but I've always been the breadwinner, the sole provider.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's really just felt like me against the world. And as much as that sucks, you know, I didn't want it to be that way. I didn't want my life to
Yeah.
be that way. And now for the first time, my life doesn't feel that way. You know, I have an amazing wife who's not only incredibly supportive, she's going to get her Juris Doctorate and she's going to be a
Wow.
lawyer. So she'll probably be more successful than I ever was.
You know, that's the first piece of great advice is don't marry a lawyer, and now you're putting one through school.
No, she's amazing. No,
All right.
everyone else can have problems with her, but I don't.
Yeah. All right. So, you're in the Air Force, and you wanna. There's something stirring inside you saying, "I need to get better." Isn't that true?
Yes.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
happened?
I mean, I thought the Air Force was going to be my life. It was going to be my career, and I had a little bump in the road there where I ran into a master sergeant who had a bad day or something and just decided he was going to take it out on me. And you know, he didn't have any honor, he didn't have any integrity. He flat out lied about our interaction together. And it just made me start rethinking everything, right?
Mm,
And I had told you before when we talked, I took a math class and I did pretty well. So I thought, well, heck, maybe I can go ahead and do that college thing. Like maybe spending 25, 30 years in the Air Force, I have a higher calling, something I can do better. And so, yeah, I just decided to get out and go to college because I didn't think the Air Force was for me anymore.
yeah. Where'd you go to school at?
Wright State in Dayton, Ohio.
Wright
It's
State, Dayton,
yeah,
Ohio.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a medical school actually, and it was the best time of my life.
Uh-huh.
Frankly, I
Yeah.
really loved it. I had a great time.
And so did you graduate from there?
I did. I got a bachelor's degree in communications because my dream was to be a play-by-play sportscaster for sports. But that didn't happen. That didn't work out. So
Uh-huh. So after college, what do you do?
so yeah, I start trying to figure out what to do, right? Because the
Mhm.
whole entry into college was I'm going to, you know, I always had that straightforward focus mentality. I'm going to do this play by play thing. Like there
Yeah.
was just no other thing for me. But then the reality of life hit me. I started interning at a TV station. They started telling me just how hard, like, you basically have a better shot at becoming a famous actor or actress than
Wow.
getting the gig I wanted. Yeah. And they really
Mhm.
started, I don't know, knocking the belief out of me that I could actually do it. Maybe I let them get to me too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I decided, all right, well, I got to figure something else out then. So I started doing things like I was management and retail, and then I was doing sales and insurance sales and accounting sales, and you know, none of that was working for me. And I was with my second wife at this point in life, and we had a really horrible toxic relationship, meaning like we knew we didn't belong together but we couldn't stay away from each other. And so I
I'm
knew I
sorry.
needed yeah, 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 it's ugly but funny at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah, it's like the biggest contradiction ever.
Yeah, yeah. No, the problem was this. I'll be frank. She had Angelina Jolie's face and a fitness model's body, and she was really smart. She had an eidetic memory. She had a 4.0 GPA in master's degree in chemistry. And on paper, she was amazing, right?
Uh-huh.
But our personalities just didn't go together. They just didn't. So we just clashed all the time. But we were incredibly attracted to each other and we respected each other immensely.
Yeah,
But we fought all the time. So
yeah.
I couldn't stay away from her. She couldn't stay away from me. And I knew I needed to level up my life. I knew I needed to do something
Mhm.
differently. And so that's when I joined the army, A, to get away from her, and B, to get my second level of education. And that's where I got my MBA while I was in the Army.
So you left the Air Force, you went to college, then you went back into the big green machine, the big green grinder they call Uncle Sam's Army.
Yeah.
And what was your MOS then?
So it's funny you say that. I actually wanted to do recon, but the recruiter was really cool and nice to me, the opposite of the Air Force recruiter, frankly. And he said, "Man, don't you want to go to school? Don't you want to get a master's degree?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "You'll be deployed all the time. You'll never get to go to school."
Mm.
He said, "You want this job right here?" And he pointed on the computer screen, and I read it, and I said, "Food inspector? You want me to be a food inspector?" He's like, "Yeah, man, it's a cake job. It's a Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30 job. You get evenings and weekends off. It's perfect for going to school." So I
And
said,
he got a bonus for getting a food inspector, didn't he?
probably. But he was right. I mean, the
Yeah.
job itself was cake.
Cake, so
The
to
people
speak.
that I had to work with, the people that I had to work with were a pain in my butt. But yeah, the
Yeah.
job itself was pretty easy.
All right. So how long were you in for?
4 years, just like the Air Force.
Another four. So now you got two 4-year hitches behind you, and you've got
Yes.
an opportunity to get some of that GI Bill working for your master's program, right?
I got it while I was in the Army. So the
Right
Army,
on.
while you're in, pays 100% tuition,
Nice.
as long as you're going to school and you're in. But it caps out at a certain amount per year.
Right.
So I did have to pay some out of pocket but I also got a reduced rate for my education as well, just for
There you
being in the
go.
military.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out overall doing that. And yeah, so I worked with this chief warrant officer. And when was finishing up my MBA, I was deciding, did I want to stay in the Army? Did I want to go become an Army officer, or did I want
Hmm.
to get out? And he's like, "Man, you need to get the heck out of the Army and go make some real money with that MBA."
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Don't call me sir. I'm a chief warrant officer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
All right.
he had a pretty good influence on my decision there.
Awesome. So then what'd you do?
So then immediately, I had to just make ends meet until I could get a quote unquote real job. So I started personal training, and I was a personal trainer, and I was personal training a guy, and we were getting along great, like I do pretty much with most people. And we were just randomly talking, and I told him I had an MBA, and I was, just personal training till I could get a different career. And then he just goes, "Oh my God, I work at Raytheon. Why don't you come work for me?" And I was like, "Seriously?" He said, "Yeah." And so,
Yeah.
yeah, he just basically got me into Raytheon, and I got my first job in aerospace about 6 months after I had gotten out of the Army.
Wow, nice deal. So
Yeah.
Raytheon, for our listeners, is one of the big five government contractors across the U.S. Part of the military industrial complex, so to speak, as
Yes.
they would say. And what'd you do there?
So I had a role called senior configuration analyst. And so while that may not make a lot of sense to most people, it certainly didn't make sense to me when I started the job. Um, it's just basically making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed in the process of making whether it's a missile or whatever they're making
Yeah,
there. I just happen to had been on different missile programs. So for
yeah.
me, it was making the missiles.
You're a
And
food inspector for missiles.
yeah, something like that. So yeah, so I was doing that, and that was, and in 2009, Obama came in and made cuts to our defense,
Hmm.
and Raytheon got hit with that personally, and
Hmm.
then I got hit with that
Yeah,
personally because they then started laying people off,
sure.
and I was one of the first people they laid off. They just basically, like, I was so junior. I'd only been there 3 years. And
Yeah,
because I had an MBA, they had brought me in at such a high salary
right.
that I was expendable to them. So that was my first. getting laid off feeling, and it sucked. It sucked bad.
Yeah. So you're describing a career that really has been kind of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Where are you at now?
Well, now I'm a consultant with a phenomenal contractor, and we work for the VA.
Mhm.
And it's a small company. There's only about 50 employees in the
Right on.
company, and my bosses that are the two co-owners are just incredible dudes. Just really, like, you have their cell phone, you can text them, call them anytime you need anything.
Yeah.
They,
I love
they're,
that.
yeah, no, they're amazing. So I really love where I'm at now.
Okay. And so what do you consult on? I mean, just give us like a thumbnail sketch. What's your specialty? What's your mojo?
Yeah, so it's a lot to do with process change. That's a lot of what I've had to do in my career at other jobs is help with change in process and software and things like that. And so the VA is overhauling their electronic healthcare record system for
Uh-huh.
all, 200 locations across the
Yeah.
US. And so what they do is they have a small ish team of national people that helps each, that they have local
Mhm.
teams at each VA, and then we just basically assist as we go through regions and help the VA switch over their electronic healthcare records system. And I'm on the national team. So yeah, we're on the northwest east coast type area right now, but we're going to make our way all the way across the US.
So you have a never-ending job helping the VA get better and take care of our beloved veterans because let's
Yeah,
face it, I'm from the VA and I'm here to help is probably the second biggest lie in military history.
for sure. I use the VA for my healthcare too, and
Yeah.
it's incredibly frustrating for
All
sure.
right. So why does that make you a supporter of military veterans?
Well, it's a brotherhood like you can't explain to anyone if you haven't been there and you haven't gone through it. I've tried to tell this to other people. I've been on sports teams, a lot of sports
Mhm.
teams. I understand teamwork and teammate unity. I've worked in different careers and different jobs, and there's just nothing like being a veteran, the brotherhood of the military, and you just love each other. It's like this thing where as soon as you find out someone else was in the military, it's this instant connection that you just can't find any other way, because there's that respect, that camaraderie, that brotherhood of knowing what you've gone through for this country and for yourself. Because don't get me wrong, the military helped me grow a lot as a
Yeah.
human being and as a man. So it's done a lot for me too.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your service, man. I want you to know it's personal to me too. Having a son who's a combat veteran is not many parents, unless they've gone through it, will understand that. But we kind of share some of that, especially on a combat veteran side. So that is why it's personal for you. Why is the Ohio State University personal for you, dude?
So, I've been an Ohio State football fan since I was a kid. And, once you get up and grow up and you go away and you move away, now where you're from, your roots just kind of mean a little bit that much more to you. So, when I moved away, I just loved Ohio State football more. It represented home. It represented where I was from. And of course, they're great. I mean, let's be real. They're the current national champs. So it's not
See, that had to
hard.
come out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just had
It, it's,
you couldn't get through a podcast without saying that.
it's not hard to be an Ohio State football fan
Yeah.
for sure. And in a month and a half ish, I am starting my second podcast, which is explicitly for Ohio State football that I'm
All right.
excited about.
All right. Well, good luck with that, man. Let's start to
Thanks.
land this plane.
Okay.
You started a podcast called Life is Crazy. What kind of feedback are you getting from your pod?
Not enough. That's
Not
all I'll
enough?
say. I mean, the
Yeah.
only, the people that have me as guests like you do, or I have as guests, they listen to my show and they all tell me that it's great or inspiring or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But just, people that are just listening and they're not a guest or they're not going to have me a guest, they're not really reaching out to me. They're not really giving me the feedback that I'm looking for. And I've called to action and asked people to give me feedback and go to my website and do that. But for whatever reason, people just don't do it. I don't know why. So, I don't know how. I take it as no news is good news, I guess, because people are listening, but they don't have anything to say.
Well, it is a long haul, and it's a crawl, walk, run with podcasting is what I've learned. We used to have one that we did for our little company, and then another one that we did with video that was for the bigger company. And now, we're 50 episodes in on the Grampian. And so I've done, in essence, like we're closing in somewhere on 400 versions of some sort of a podcast or another. And what happens over time is people find you and they find that they can relate, and you're very relatable. So you keep putting episodes out there, man. And I'm telling Grampia Nation, you go on the This Life is Crazy podcast, and I want you to subscribe, and I want you to comment, and I want you to help us get better by grinding on us a little bit. We don't mind. We're pretty thick-skinned. We can take it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can subscribe by going brandonheld.com, and it's right there under the title, subscribe to podcast. And you can't miss it. I appreciate that call out for me.
Awesome. So for the 6,000 of you out there on Grampia Nation, I'm talking to you. Just on YouTube alone, go to Brandon Held at the Life is Crazy podcast, click subscribe and make a comment. Let them know and listen to it, man. You'll be better off for it. Anything you want to tell our folks before we say sayonara there, Brandon?
I just want to reinforce that, whatever you're going through, that is, if you're in a tough spot in life, just remember, don't be short-sighted. Think big picture, think long term. If you keep doing the right things and taking the right steps in the right direction, things will turn around for you. I promise you they will. You just have to keep making the right choices and making the right decision, and things will go your way. That's really what I care about people knowing the most.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you. Tell our folks how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So brandonheld.com is my website. It's a great way to subscribe to my podcast. And I'm also on Instagram, BH_life is crazy. If you follow me and let me know you followed from a podcast, I follow back. So those are the best ways to get to me.
Right on. Brandon Held, thank you for coming on the Grampian. But before we go, you've lived a big life. And can you tell us about one of the people who was a champion who affected your journey in such a way that you'd want to give him a shout out right now?
Wow. Yeah. It's someone that I actually lost touch with. And her name was Debbie Godwin, and she was a vice president at one of the subcontracting companies that I worked at for the Army. And she's a retired Army lieutenant colonel, and she took me under her wing when I was there, and she really helped me understand the ropes of the politics of government contracting. And she guided me for 3 years and made me much more intelligent and much smarter about what I'm doing, and I really respect her and thank her for that.
Right on. Shout out to Lieutenant Colonel. So thank you, Brandon, for coming on the show. We appreciate you. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, man. And you out there, Grampy Nation, you keep having and getting those Grampian-sized dreams. Chase what you want and go after it. This is Jim. I'm out. When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.